Welcome in, everybody, to the Mock Draft Monday of all Mock Draft Mondays here right after the Combine. I think every analyst, everybody with a smartphone and their mother are making a mock draft today. So I really appreciate you taking the time to watch my mock draft here. And I think you're really going to find this one interesting. I think it's going to look different than a lot of those mocks you're looking at today, because this is going to be a full-on what I would do mock draft, placing myself in the GM chair of all 32 NFL teams, making the best decisions, in my opinion, for those teams based on my own player evaluations. So we've had so much more time to get deeper into these prospects, really get into the film and research these guys. So I'm starting to develop much stronger opinions on these guys, to the point where you will now see a player grade on these guys as well right next to their name, which is really exciting. And I can't wait to share this with you guys, and I kind of see your reactions to some of the players that are going to come in either higher or lower based on what you're seeing out there. So I really hope you guys enjoy. Please do hit that like button if you do. It really helps me out. Also, if you're new and you enjoy the content, make sure you subscribe for more great draft content and some free agency stuff just around the corner. Let's go ahead and get started with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And this is going to be where I'm with the consensus. I think Evan Neal makes a ton of sense here. He is just straight up my best player in this draft. He might be the only blue chip player in this draft. Dude shows up at 330 pounds without an ounce of fat on his body at the Combine. He plays big, he's got quick feet, he's a great run blocker, needs to improve his hands a little bit in pass pro, but I think they very much will come along there at the next level. So you get a franchise left tackle for the quarterback you hope is your franchise quarterback, who had a disappointing first year. Got to do your best job to give Trevor Lawrence the best surrounding situation as possible. It's not a wide receiver at number one, and there's no trade-up options here either. So it's going to be Evan Neal. Another little sneaky thing this does is you're going to let Taylor and Little duke it out at right tackle, and then you can kick one of those guys inside to guard potentially. So you're not just upgrading at left tackle, you're upgrading at guard as well, where Andrew Norwell is an impending free agent. I don't know if he wants to come back to Jacksonville. So you kind of killed two birds with one stone there. Very nice pick. It's the odds-on favorite for a reason. Then we have the number 2 pick here for the Detroit Lions. And I did what everybody else is doing here. Just pencil in Aiden Hutchinson, kind of the best, most valuable player left on the board, being that big edge rusher. But you know what? I wrote it in and I was like, no, I'm the GM here. I am not taking Aiden Hutchinson. Not that it wouldn't be a good pick or even a great pick. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to shock the world with Ikem Ekwonu at guard for the Detroit Lions. Now, just a quick little tangent here. I had him number 3 on my tackles board. Arm length was a slight concern. I really needed to see the arm threshold there for Ekwonu. He cleared it by plenty at 34 inches. So it was really good to see that. Put him just over Charles Cross as my number 2 tackle. None of that matters here because he's playing guard for the Detroit Lions here. And I know what you're thinking. TFG, you can't take a guard second overall. Like, come on. Positional value. I get it as much as the next guy, but this is not a typical draft class. As I mentioned, there's no blue chip prospects here on the board. Evan Neal was the only one maybe, and he's gone. So yeah, you could take Hutchinson. He'd be a little bit of an upgrade to what you have on the edge, but hey, you have Trey Flowers, you have Akwara and Akwara's brother, and maybe even Charles Harris comes back here. They have edge pieces. You know what Ikem Ekwonu does here? It gives you a you offensive line, because you got Taylor Decker at left tackle, you got Jonah Jackson at left guard, who's now by far your worst piece, and he's good. You have Frank Ragnow coming back, best run blocking center in the NFL, maybe one of the most underrated players in the NFL period, who missed all of last season for the most part. Then you have Ikem Ekwonu, who's like baby Trent Williams at right guard, and then you have Penei freaking Sewell at right tackle. This goes from a true strength to an elite of elite units. And I don't say that lightly. I don't like to throw that word around on this channel. But you're not talking about just the best offensive line in the NFL here in Detroit with Ikem Ekwonu. You're talking about one of the best offensive lines we've ever seen, assuming proper development to Ekwonu and Penei Sewell, which coached by Dan Campbell, I feel pretty good about that happening. So this is a stunning pick, but I looked at this and I was like, why not just delete front sevens from the equation? Make the job easier on Jared Goff for now, and for whoever comes in here, it's going to be a luxury. And God, this would be just the pinnacle of a Dan Campbell-led Detroit Lions team. So very surprising pick there with Ikem Ekwonu at number 2. Excited to see your reactions to it, Lions fans. But that is my pick, and that is going to shake some things up here as we move forward. It does make the third pick here for the Texans very easy. Aiden Hutchinson. The Texans cannot miss on this pick. And Hutchinson, if you want to talk about the top 5 guys, he's probably the most can't-miss prospect. Just so polished, the leadership, the production, you name it. He plugs in right there opposite of Jonathan Grenard, who had a very good second season for the Texans under the radar. A very good fit there in that Lovie Smith defense, and it gives you a nice kind of foundational building block being that edge rush duo for the Houston Texans. Very easy pick if the board falls this way. And now the New York Jets up at number 4. I am going to take Kayvon Thibodeaux. I was really disappointed that he didn't run his drills at the Combine. You're getting these question marks of his kind of commitment to football, the work ethic, the motor, all that stuff. And I'm really not buying into it for the most part, but at some point where there's smoke, there's fire, and skipping out on the Combine drills is just like, really, dude? Like, you know people are saying this about you. Just go out there and run around a bag for 5 minutes. Like, it's not that big of a deal. You're a freak of nature. You're going to look great doing it. So that was just kind of like, come on, man. Disappointing. I still love Thibodeaux as a prospect, though. And the man talks countlessly about his brand, and he's got cryptocurrency and wants to make as much money as possible. Well, there you go, man. You're in New York. You got Robert Saleh, who's going to scheme this guy up to perfection. I call Kayvon Thibodeaux an agent of chaos. Not only is he extremely powerful, elite, like athletic traits, but when you scheme him up on stunts, and you can even put him as kind of that mug linebacker and blitz him, that's stuff that Salah is going to be able to do. And he's got different pieces around him. You got Lawson coming back, John Franklin Myers, obviously Quinnen Williams. He's here too. Don't forget about him. So this pass rush can become a true identity for the Jets, and I think Robert Saleh would hand this card in pretty quickly as long as they're not like super worried about his off-field stuff that people are saying. That I think there's maybe a tick of something to it, but probably more overstated than anything. And then the number 5 pick, the New York Giants. They have been very vocal about needing offensive line, and the Ekwonu pick kind of shook some things up here. But there's 3 great offensive tackles in this draft. As long as they don't all go off the board in the first 4 picks, I think the Giants are taking one of them at number 5. I feel pretty dang good about that. I think if Thibodeaux or Hutchinson were here at 5, that would be the only other piece that they would be kind of forced to think about it a little bit. But this card would get handed in pretty quickly. It's been beat to the dirt that that the Giants are trying to put the best situation in front of Daniel Jones. That involves getting better pass protection. So you hope Charles Cross, his motor skills can translate to the right tackle spot seamlessly. And if they do, you've got yourself a really nice tackle duo there with Andrew Thomas and Charles Cross, who's just a polished pass protector. And I think would be a better run blocker when asked to do it more in the NFL as well, by the way, because at Mississippi State, they didn't really run the ball downhill at all. And then with the 6th pick, the Carolina Panthers sitting here too early for a quarterback, in my opinion. I don't think you're drafting another corner here after all of the pieces they have there. The Panthers also just don't have a lot of draft picks. They don't have a second because of the Darnold trade. They don't have a third because of the CJ Henderson trade. If you can get a team to come up for Kyle Hamilton, who's very redundant with Jeremy Chin, by the way, that's why we're not taking Hamilton, I'm going to do that. And the team that I think has the resources to make this move, that it just makes a ton of sense, is the New York Jets, who you go up from the 10th pick to the 6th pick, you give up one of your 3rds and one of your 5ths. Like I said, the Jets are swimming in draft capital, so it's really not much for them to move up. We saw them move up in the draft last year as well with Joe Douglas calling the shots, but I'm doing the same thing with myself in the GM chair here. We got Thibodeaux earlier to complete what you hope is going to be an elite pass rush next year. Now we're going to improve the coverage unit here. The Jets had an embarrassing defense last year. They may have even been the worst in the league. And for Robert Saleh, who was brought in here as a defensive mind, that's an embarrassment. So he's not going to want that to happen again. And now you add Kyle Hamilton, who, God, we could spend 10 minutes talking about all of the different ways that Robert Saleh is going to deploy him. I compare him to Spider-Man with his reach and instincts and quickness over the middle of the field, can man up tight ends. And God, who knows how many things he could do with Robert Saleh calling the shots there, who's going to get very creative with Kyle Hamilton. I think going to have his eyes on that skill set. So loading up this defense with some really exciting talent. Let's move on to the number 7 overall pick, the New York Giants back on the clock, who just picked at number 5, got some offensive line help. This is a really tough spot for me, man. I think the corners is where the value's at right here, but I like the corners that the New York Giants have. They've spent plenty of time investing in that group. It's too high for an edge, in my opinion. Maybe you think about like a David Ojabo, but I was just sitting here and I was like, you know who I want if I'm the New York Giants GM? I want my guy Zion Johnson out of Boston College, and this is going to probably get a lot of Giants fans to just turn this mock draft off, but hear me out. Zion Johnson currently has a top 5 grade for me of any player in this draft class. He is an excellent athlete at guard, and he's not your typical undersized guard. No, he's 315 pounds. He's got 34-inch arms, and he is wicked strong. His pass protection technique is flawless. He attaches, he mirrors, he attacks. He is a dominant pass protector, and he's a damn good run blocker too. He comes in just under 6'3", but he flies off the ball. He is strong. He has those strong arms to get a hold of you. To me, he's a flawless guard prospect. People knock him for his height. No, that's an advantage for Zion Johnson. He leverages his height to the best of his ability. And some of you guys might be saying, well, what about Tyler Linderbaum? He's pretty similar. No, Linderbaum is under 300 pounds. Linderbaum has 31-inch arms. Linderbaum isn't as strong as Zion Johnson, who could play guard or center. I like Zion Johnson as a better prospect than Tyler Linderbaum. I'm sorry, it's just what I saw. So I'm taking Zion Johnson, man. He can play guard, he can play center. I think he'd be really good either way. This dude's super smart too. He's an incredible high work ethic guy. He's like a perfect 4.0 student at Boston College as a computer science major. I don't think it's a coincidence that after he finished his degree, he kind of broke out at Boston College. So, God, I am just drooling at the mouth with Zion Johnson. I think he's the biggest sleeper in this class at this point in time, and I don't personally have an issue drafting him at number 7 if I can't find a trade down partner, which I wasn't able to do here. And then the number 8 pick, I think is maybe going to surprise some people, maybe not, depending how you feel about this player, but it's Derek Stingley Jr. Out of LSU, and you know all the hype is on Sauce right now, and I get it. I mean, shit, Sauce is going to be my next pick, so I think he's a great player. I think he's a safer pick. But I just like Derek Stingley better. I like his upside better. And I think his floor, being this boomer bust prospect, is very overstated. Number 1, he's coming off the serious foot injury. I get if you're worried about it, but all reports are he's healthy. He's good to go. He's going to kill it at his pro day. And that's part of it. I think Sauce is a good athlete. I think Derek Stingley is a next level elite athlete. There's just a little bit of a quick twitch difference there with those guys. But I also think it's overstated this idea that Derek Stingley was bad after 2019, 2019 when he was like the most dominant college defender in the last few years. No, you just got these expectations through the roof, and all of a sudden defenses stopped throwing the ball his way. Surprise, surprise. And he just kind of dropped off in his production, but he's still right there, play after play. He's still locked down. There's literally one play in 2021 where he gives up a big touchdown, kills his PFF grade because he only played 3 games. They ran off cover 1 man coverage and no help underneath. UCLA runs a slant, Stingley gets beat, and he misses the tackle, ends up giving up a touchdown. Other than that, he was damn good in 2021. I thought he was poised to kind of re-cement himself before the foot injury. So I just think these concerns with Stingley are a little bit overblown. I'm willing to take that leap of faith because I see Derek Stingley as a Stephon Gilmore level prospect or at least a guy that could become a Stephon Gilmore. So I'm going to gamble on the upside a little bit. I don't think the floor is as bad as people make it seem with Derek Stingley either. And you plug him in there next to AJ Terrell, who's currently one of the most underrated players in the league. You have a dynamic cornerback duo. So I alluded to Ahmad Gardner being the next pick, and that's going to happen here. But Broncos fans are like, what the hell? We took Pat Surtain last year. Why would we take? Nope. The Broncos are trading here for Deshaun Watson. So Deshaun Watson for this pick, second rounder, first and a third next year, and KJ Hamler to the Houston Texans for Deshaun Watson. So there's your Denver Broncos quarterback right there. And then the Houston Texans are going to take Ahmad Gardner. So you're getting two of the safer prospects in this class. And Ahmad Gardner, he's known for his press man coverage ability, but he does something really well as well that's going to look really nice in Lovie Smith's defense here. He's actually a great corner in cover two, which is kind of that Lovie Smith special, because the number one job of a cornerback in cover two, especially the way they do it in the NFL, is you got to press. You got to keep that you got to keep that number one receiver from getting up into that hole shot against cover two up the sideline. The way to do that is to jam them up front, slow down that receiver's release while you keep your eyes kind of at your zone to see if anybody else is coming into that flat zone. So Ahmad Gardner is very good at that, and he can obviously cover down the field as well in any other coverages you want to run. So Ahmad Gardner to the Houston Texans, and all of a sudden that defense shaping up a little bit more with Hutchinson and Gardner. I just want to interrupt the video for a second and let you guys know, if you're enjoying the draft content, to please check out my Patreon. It's patreon.com/thatfranchiseguy. You're going to get exclusive content there. You get film breakdowns. You'll get access to my full draft board where these draft grades are coming from, but you'll get strengths and weaknesses, full descriptions, just a laundry list of information and analysis on every player in this draft. So if you enjoy my draft content, you'll love my Patreon and the TFG Draft Insider Package. I appreciate you checking it out in advance and showing your support for my channel. And then at pick 10 with the Carolina Panthers, where we move down, I'm just going to take Tyler Linderbaum, man. I know there's some concerns about size and all this stuff. Look, we traded down. We got some more draft capital. It makes me feel better about the positional value thing because we added value to this pick. It's probably who I would have ended up just taking at number 5, him or number 6, him or Zion Johnson. So Linderbaum's going to be a stud at center. I know that. I know this offensive line is freaking terrible. Your center's leaving in Matt Paradise. He's a free agent. So huge need here. Yeah, he's smaller, but he doesn't let him get overwhelmed. He's got that wrestling background. He's got incredible core strength. He's a great run blocker. We got to fix this offensive line, man. And I don't know for sure that Penning or Raymond are even going to be upgrades to what you have in Brady Christensen at left tackle, who's like fine. So Tyler Linderbaum, plug him in at center and just say F you to positional value and all that stuff. This draft is a little bit unique in that way because it's just not the best draft in the world. So Linderbaum is the pick to the Panthers at 10, and any positional value, people can suck it. And then at number 11 for Washington, if this was a predictive mock, sure, I might have Malik Willis here as a hot name right now, but you can check out my Malik Willis film breakdown here on the channel. And you'll see why I think this is too high for Malik Willis. So I'm going to look to move down for Washington. There's a hot name on the board in David Ojabo right now, who, if I'm the Baltimore Ravens, I'm willing to jump a team like the Minnesota Vikings to go up and get David Ojabo, who I've talked about on the Fully Inflated Football podcast, is a dream fit here in Baltimore. You have Michigan's defensive coordinator coming in here to Baltimore. You have the Harbaugh to Harbaugh connection. You have a gaping need at edge opposite of Odafe Oweh. Oh, and that guy we just mentioned, Odafe Oweh, yeah, he's like high school best friends with David Ojabo. So this is just a dream fit. Everything makes sense here. And I think Baltimore can really justify this move. They give up one of their extra third-round picks to go and get him, along with a fourth-round pick. You're Washington, you move down a few spots, you pick up another draft pick. pretty easy move for both sides, honestly. And then the Minnesota Vikings at pick number 12, you've got Kevin O'Connell coming in with that Rams offense influence. Rams love themselves some 3 wide receiver, 11 personnel packages. You do have 3 wide receivers here, but Thielen's getting up there in age. As I mentioned on the podcast, just came out and supported NFL overtime rules. I don't know how much you can trust his mental stability at this point in time. Also, KJ Osborne showed some nice stuff. Might be a number 3 down the road, but there's no wide receivers off the board yet. And you can take my number 1 wide receiver here, Garrett Wilson, who has shades of Justin Jefferson coming out, just that big, smooth, kind of gliding through the defense style, really good with the ball in his hands, excellent ball skills. So you can sign me up for 2 Justin Jeffersons in a, Sean McVay style offense. Abso-freaking-lutely. So Garrett Wilson to the Vikings might not be their biggest need, but he is the best player on the board right now, and he will start for this team immediately. Talk about giving Kirk Cousins everything he needs to succeed as well. Then we got the Cleveland Browns at number 13. Another wide receiver is going to come off the board here, Treylon Burks. Not the most exciting combine out there, a little bit less explosive than maybe we all wanted to see. But man, he's still explosive on film, man. It's very similar to like A.J. Brown, Deebo Samuel, that big 220-pound receiver. Starts a little bit slow, so that 40 time might not fully reflect his game speed. Both A.J. Brown and Deebo are super fast on the field, but they only ran like 4 or 5 40s, just around where Treylon Burks ran. So I'm not that worried about it, especially because I see Treylon Burks as a dream fit in those styles of offense. Both Tennessee and San Francisco run that Shanahan-style offense where they can really get these guys going on intermediate crossing routes, put the ball in their hands, and let them go to work as well. So Treylon Burks to the Browns in this Kevin Stefanski, Shanahan-inspired offense is a phenomenal fit. They need a guy like this that can separate over the middle of the field. They have nobody on their roster that fits this archetype. So this is a dream fit for the Browns. And then Washington, where we traded down, it's going to be another one of my guys here, a guy I'm just falling more and more in love with, getting through his tape and his workout at the combine, backing up the elite movement skills that you see on tape. It's Daxton Hill out of Michigan. He's a little bit of a projection, right? He played mostly slot corner and a lot of man coverage at Michigan. That's not what he's going to be asked to do here, although Washington does actually need a slot corner, so if he doesn't look all that great at safety, he could start at slot corner for you day 1 and round out that secondary, but that's not the plan here. I'm putting him as that other split safety up top next to Cameron Curl. And how often on this channel do I talk about if you are a quarters-heavy system, which, Washington's not a true Fangio scheme, but it's their coverage splits are in the same breath as far as the types of defense they call, so it's a great scheme fit for a hybrid safety like Daxton Hill. I've talked about how former experience at slot corner is invaluable. So many guys like Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, Justin Simmons, so many of these great safeties in these systems have man coverage skills, because at the end of the day, when you're running a quarters defense, oftentimes these guys got to flip and cover deep posts, cover out routes, and convert into a corner. So with the speed and man coverage ability that Daxton Hill has, with how fast he flies downhill and the mentality he has, God, I am just obsessed with him projecting as a cover 4 split safety fit in the NFL. And I just don't care what other people are saying about Daxton Hill as like a late first rounder. I think he's going to end up as one of the 10 best players in this draft, and I don't see this as a reach. So Washington getting Daxton Hill, and I'm not taking any of these quarterbacks yet. Now we get to the first Eagles pick at 15. I do see edge as a big need for this team. You got Brandon Graham as your number 2 guy at this point, opposite of Josh Sweat, kind of up there in age, coming off a serious injury. This is a good draft to attack that. It doesn't necessarily have to be here, but I'm a little bit higher on George Karlaftis. He's kind of falling down as you get Jermaine Johnson kind of getting this late hype. You got David Ojabo kind of stealing the show at the combine, Trayvon Walker, all this stuff. Go back to the tape, man. George Karlaftis is just a much better player than those guys on the field. So I plug him right in here, and he's comparable to Brandon Graham. His arms aren't as long, but that same idea of just a powerful edge piece that can step inside when you need him. So he's a great long-term replacement there. The Eagles have always valued, no matter who the coach has been, has always valued a deep rotation there. You're also losing Derek Barnett. So yes, it's a little bit reminiscent of Derek Barnett, who wasn't this elite athletic profile, but this is a need for the Eagles, and we're going to go with George Karlaftis at 15. Probably not going to be the biggest fan favorite pick there, but I think it's right for them. Then at 16 for the Eagles, and I'm afraid Eagles fans probably won't love this mock draft. It's tough because this draft, it's just a weaker class. So you have to make some tough decisions when you get into this 16 to 25 range. And one of the best players on the board right now is Trent McDuffie at a position of value, and that's who I'm taking here for the Eagles. And Eagles fans are going to look at this and say, corner, that's not a need. We got Steven Nelson, we got Darius Slay, we got Avonte Maddox. Look, I get it, I do. Slay is up there in age. Steven Nelson hasn't even been re-signed here. Those guys aren't long-term solutions at corner. I think you have a chance to get a long-term 10-year starter on the outside in Trent McDuffie. He gives you a fourth corner immediately. I don't know how many people even realize how often dime packages are run in the NFL. So it's not like Trent McDuffie's just going to sit on the bench and not play. He's still going to play a significant role for you, even if you have Nelson and Slay out there. If they're not, if you can't get Nelson back, or if one of those guys gets injured, then you have Trent McDuffie. So I do see cornerback as a need. McDuffie, with his athleticism, he's so smart. He is going to be a great player for you. It might not be right away this year, but God, you're going to be happy to have him sooner rather than later. Then at number 17, I'm taking Hulk himself, Jordan Davis out of Georgia. Now, the combine was insane. When I watched Jordan Davis on film, I don't see that uber alien style athlete on film. Now, he's very rare, he's huge and quick, and he's a good run defender. I think the hype's going to get a little bit out of control with Jordan Davis. He's not a pass rusher at all. He's got virtually no tape that tells you he can rush the passer, but he is very good as a run defender. So he's not actually even my number one interior defensive lineman. But with the Chargers' squishiness up the middle, they need that enforcer right now. And Jordan Davis is their best bet at getting that. So we're going to take Jordan Davis. If they can sign like a Sebastian Joseph Day, either they're going to be a great compliment, or you could go elsewhere here, maybe an edge or something. But this is a really common landing spot. I think I've done this in all three of my mock drafts, but it really does just make that much sense. And then with the 18th pick, New Orleans Saints, a lot of people might be saying, where are these quarterbacks, man? This is getting a little ridiculous. I don't have a true first-round grade on any quarterback in this class. Kenny Pickett's the only one that is a first to a second. Everybody else is a second-round grade. I just don't see it with these quarterbacks. And I'm going to tell you like it is in this what I would do mock draft. Obviously, Malik Willis is probably gone at this point in real life. But you know who's not gone? Jamison Williams. And I'm taking Jamison Williams to be that deep threat, perfect complement to Michael Thomas. In all reality, I think Jameis is back here in New Orleans. It just seems to add up and make sense. So give him a true deep threat to let it ride, man. And I think Jameis could come back and look pretty dang good here in New Orleans. And if Jameson can get back healthy, you just might surprise some people. And heck, with Tom Brady gone, you might even win the NFC South with Jameis back here. So give him another receiver. It's a huge need for the Saints, and he's my number 2 wide receiver, actually ahead of Treylon Burks. It's just the injury stuff. The Browns need that immediate presence. That's another reason we went with Treylon Burks. Then the Eagles at 19, and I really don't think I'm making a lot of friends so far because you drafted Karlaftis, who might not even start year one because Brandon Graham could come back. We drafted Trent McDuffie, who might not start because you got Slay and Steven Nelson. So we've kind of been building the core here for the future. And I'm going to draft Kenyon Green at 19. So Brandon Brooks retired, and I know Eagles fans. You got Sayamalu who can play guard. You got Driscoll who's like okay at guard. I understand that, but those aren't long-term solutions. Kelsey's not going to be around much longer either. So I look at this offensive line next year, and I need to fill in some answers there. Look, the Eagles didn't beat a winning team last year. They're not a receiver away from being a Super Bowl team. No, Jalen Hurts needs to prove so much this year for you to feel good about that at all. You're getting really good core players for the future of this team, which in this draft is easier said than done. I think you're doing that here with Kenyon Green, who's a dominant run blocker. He could legitimately be a Brandon Brooks replacement as a Pro Bowl caliber guard for you. So, again, I might not be making a ton of friends with Eagles fans, but I know in my heart of hearts, this is the right way to establish sustainability for this Eagles team moving forward. And I gotta take a deep breath here as we get to the Steelers pick here, because I got some explaining to do on this one. I'm going way against the hype on this one, but hear me out. First quarterback's off the board here, and it's Sam Howell. Okay, so all of the hype is on Malik Willis right now, right? And I think it's so much hype, unjustified hype, honestly, that it's brushing Sam Howell and frankly Matt Corral as well completely under the rug. The narrative right now is all these quarterbacks suck, so you might as well take the fast guy with a strong arm. So which fast guy with the strong arm are you talking about here? Sam Howell or Malik Willis? Because they're both really fast and they both have really strong arms. Willis is a little bit faster, is a little bit stronger arm, but it's not this massive disparity like everyone's talking about right now. So I come back to the film, and I just can't forget about all of these issues with Malik Willis. He reads his receivers. I don't think he looked at a safety his entire time when he was at Liberty. He makes these tragic mistakes. He doesn't look to throw while he's scrambling. He scrambles to run. I did the whole film breakdown of Malik Willis. Now I see the upside, and I think the Steelers take Malik Willis, and he might work out for the Steelers in real life. But I just don't understand that narrative because I look at Sam Howell. He's got a little bit more poise. He's better going through his progressions. He had the best individual season out of any of these quarterbacks when UNC didn't suck literal ass, when they ran an actual offense for him instead of a bunch of read options and RPOs and gave him no pass protection. I do think Sam Howell in his junior season had the hardest surrounding core out of any of these quarterbacks. He was being discussed as the number one quarterback coming into the year. So it's just completely gone off the map with Sam Howell. So he, to me, is the first boom or bust or polarizing quarterback that I'm taking here, not Malik Willis. I'm going to stay true to my evaluation of these players. It's incredibly tight. I totally get it if you want to go with Malik Willis. I don't think it's that big of a difference, but there's a reason I waited here with the Steelers, because I'm totally happy if I can get Howell, Corral, or Willis here in this situation. So yeah, you can go check out my quarterbacks videos, my Malik Willis video if you want a little bit more on that. I don't know if I sold you or not, but I'm going to stay honest to how I would draft there, and we'll, I guess, just have to see how it all plays out, I guess. And then at pick 21, I'm really glad I took a water break here because I originally had the Patriots trading for Calvin Ridley with this pick. He was betting on sports and is suspended all of next year. Yeah, Calvin Ridley's not an option here, but Chris Olave is for the Patriots. So not trading that first round pick for Ridley, but we are going to use it on a very similar player in Chris Olave. Fluid route runner, great hands, not quite as fast as Calvin Ridley, but not too far behind either. So they need this type of receiver in New England. I think you look at the way Devontae Smith worked with Mac Jones in Alabama. I think there's some parallels to draw there with Chris Olave's route running, and he would be just as good of a plug and play option as Calvin Ridley. So that's the pick at 21, and the Patriots finally drafted a good receiver in the first round. All right, going to pick up the pace just a little bit here as we get into the back 10. But Trevor Penning is the pick here to the Las Vegas Raiders at 22. It's about as early as I'm willing to take Penning, but God, that right tackle spot is such a problem. You've got Leatherwood at guard. It's just the O-line in general. When Derek Carr is your quarterback, especially, you got to give him a little bit more time. So Penning's not a perfect tackle prospect, but he is a damn good run blocker. And I think he can start at right tackle day one for you, work out some of those warts in pass protection. Yeah, it's about the best you could do to fix this offensive line for the Raiders. Then at pick 23, all these offensive linemen, again, kind of off the board here. So I'm looking at corner for the Cardinals, and this was a pretty easy decision. Andrew Booth. He's got the size for you. He's fast. He's physical, good zone instincts, but can run man. I really like what I've seen from Andrew Booth so far, and I think you plug him right opposite of Byron Murphy and have no problems with him starting day one for the Cardinals. So the number 24 for the Dallas Cowboys, rumors are they might be moving on from Demarcus Lawrence. You also have Randy Gregory, an impending free agent. You got Micah Parsons, who's kind of this hybrid edge. I don't think you want to necessarily just make him a straight up edge. Either way, I think that edge group is becoming an immediate need, even though it was such a strength for this team last year. So we're going to take Jermaine Johnson, who I think is a plug and play. And actually, like, if you're moving on from Lawrence to clear cap space, Johnson's like the ideal replacement, because a different build, but a similar play style where he is just freaking nasty, like just powerful and tough and explosive off the ball. I didn't love Jermaine Johnson's tape as much as I hoped I would after I fell in love with him at the Senior Bowl. But man, he would be just a dream fit here in this defense and a plug-in replacement for either Gregory or Lawrence, whoever you end up sacrificing there. Then we got the Buffalo Bills. Going to grab Devontae Wyatt out of Georgia. He's actually my number one interior defensive line, even though we had Jordan Davis go earlier. Davis kind of filled that run defense need for the Chargers earlier. But Wyatt can defend the run too. A little bit better of a pass rusher, a little bit more ready to impact you right now, which, I mean, the Bills freaking need, man. So I think another pick that makes a lot of sense. You have Ed Oliver, but the rest of that group just doesn't really add up to me and look good on paper. So Devontae Wyatt is like 23, 24 years old. This team's looking to win a Super Bowl right now. Plug him right in there and start next to Ed Oliver. And then the Tennessee Titans at number 26. Here we go again, another quarterback off the board. It's not Malik Willis. It's going to be Matt Corral. And this one's much more straightforward. When you look at the Tennessee Titans offense, it's all about play action, utilizing the middle of the field with accuracy. And that's just not Malik Willis, man. He's got accuracy deep and outside the numbers, but over the middle of the field, he is just so uncomfortable throwing the ball in that area, reading zone coverages, feeling linebackers, all that stuff. Matt Corral is much better at that. I think you sit him for a year, and obviously you got Ryan Tannehill there, but you've reached the ceiling with Ryan Tannehill. I think it's time to get a more talented quarterback in there in Matt Corral, and this is like a dream setup for him, where he's going to have A.J. Brown and a system that works for him down the road. So I think this is a smart utilization of a first-round pick. The Titans aren't going to be bad enough to compete for a top quarterback next year, but you can bring along a Matt Corral and maybe have more of that franchise quarterback. And then we've got a bit of a run on quarterbacks here. The Tampa Bay Bucks going to take Kenny Pickett. The team is falling apart a little bit. I do think they're really pushing to keep Chris Godwin there. But the interior offensive line does need some help, but there's no one at this spot that's going to fix that for you. I still think this is a good spot with Kenny Pickett. Warm weather climate. I know it rains a good amount down there in Tampa, so that's definitely a concern. But you at least are in a division with two dome stadiums. I think this is a spot where you can survive with Kenny Two Gloves here with 8.5-inch hands. He is my number one quarterback now. With Carson Strong, kind of the injury stuff, the arm strength not looking as good at the Senior Bowl and at the Combine. He's the number one quarterback graded in this class. I think he belongs somewhere in the first round, and Tampa needs a quarterback. You got Bruce Arians is not going to just try and rebuild this whole thing. He's already retired once before, so I think this just makes a ton of sense. I think Tampa can compete in the NFC South with Kenny Pickett. They're not going to be what they were with Tom Brady, but they'll be right in the mix. All right, Green Bay up. It looks like Aaron Rodgers is going to be back. Finally kind of going all in for Rodgers, giving him everything he needs here. So obviously, we're going to do what the Packers do so well, and we're going to draft fullback Connor Hayward out of Michigan State. You can line this guy up as a wing tight end, lead blocker for Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, Aaron Rodgers, like just handing the ball off. Drafting defense in the first round, Travis Jones out of UConn. Look, I'm done mocking receiver to the Green Bay Packers, but I just can't do it anymore. Brian Gutekunst has a burning hatred for the position, so maybe if I stop mocking it to him, they'll finally do it. But hey, in all seriousness, I do think Travis Jones would actually be the right pick. Like I'm playing around here, but there's so much depth at wide receiver. I originally had Jahan Dotson here, but I'm like, look, there's no other interior defensive lineman after Travis Jones that I feel good about taking and starting next to Kenny Clark, because I think Dean Lowry gets released. And if even then, it's like Dean Lowry's not all that good. So Travis Jones is a run stuffer. He's a late first round prospect, in my opinion. He has like decent pop in his hands. He can rush the passer a little bit, and he's just a plug and play answer next to Kenny Clark. And then in the second round, there's so many receivers. There's Christian Watson, John Mechie, Jahan Dotson will be there. Like there's a long list of wide receivers. Sky Moore. There's gonna be someone in the second round, I think, available to Green Bay. That you can't say that about interior defensive line. So all jokes aside, this is seriously what I would do, is take Travis Jones out of UConn, who I really like. He's gonna be one of my guys in this draft, I think. All right, Miami Dolphins kind of patiently waiting to take the best available offensive lineman at 29, and that's Bernard Raymond. He's a great scheme fit. I'll say that. I'm not the biggest believer in Raymond's pass blocking in year one. I'd be worried about that with Tua, who you're really hoping to get a lot out of next year. But he's a great move blocker, and I think in this more Shanahan-style offense, he's going to at least give you a huge upgrade in run blocking, and you can protect some of his weaknesses in pass protection by getting some of these moving pockets. So it is a good fit. I do have a second round grade on Bernard Raymond, but there's not a lot of good options for you for Miami, and you have to go offensive line. You have no choice. So this is the best available here in Bernard Raymond. And then at pick 30 with the Kansas City Chiefs, we're going to take Drake London out of USC. I just did the film breakdown yesterday, kind of describing his limitations and what he does really well. Well, you know what you have here in Kansas City is speed. You have Tyreek Hill, you have Mecole Hardman, you've got Travis Kelce who can separate. But for whatever reason, they've really struggled in kind of that intermediate part of the field. They've struggled to have that number 2 go-to option in a pinch at wide receiver. And that is literally Drake London in a nutshell. I detailed in that video all the creative ways you can utilize London to have him still be a separator at the next level. And I talked about if he's going to win vertically and play as an outside wide receiver as well, you need a quarterback that is willing and able to accurately throw back shoulders down the sideline, and that's Patrick Mahomes. So I think this is a dream landing spot for London, and it's quietly something the Chiefs need, which is a bigger bodied target instead of all these speedy separator types that they have like Hill and Hardman. I profiled London as a boom or bust receiver in that video yesterday, and I think in Kansas City, you'd get much more of that Michael Thomas style boom from Drake London as opposed to the N'Keal Harry style bust. Now the Cincinnati Bengals at 31. Look, I love offensive linemen to the Bengals as much as anybody, but they're all gone in this world. I'm not going to just reach on a third round prospect just because he plays offensive line. You have other picks. So I'm going to look at another need in cornerback and draft Kyler Gordon out of Washington. Really big, fast, smart, physical corner, can run any of the coverages they like to run here in Cincinnati. I think he'd compete for a day one starting job. And yeah, you're filling that cornerback 2 need. And you can look O-line elsewhere. And then with the 32nd pick, this is going to be Malik Willis. I'm not going to leave him out of the first round entirely here. The Detroit Lions end up with Willis after all, who's going to be behind that offensive line we drafted for him. He can sit behind Jared Goff, which makes it a great situation. And you have another pick in a couple rounds to take like a Jahan Dotson or something like that. Maybe they take a wide receiver in free agency as well. So, gosh, what a dream spot for Malik Willis with a coaching staff I trust, an offensive line in front of him. This is one of those situations where you can be patient with them, develop them, and put him in the right surrounding situation once he's up to speed with NFL offenses. So with all the negative stuff I've said about Malik Willis, this is the type of stuff I would do with him. Like in a draft and develop spot with the right pieces around him, he could blow up. So Malik Willis off the board for the Detroit Lions. And there we have it. That was a banger, man. Really fun mock draft. I cannot wait to see your reactions. I know there's going to be some picks in here that are going to throw you off, but just know I've watched the film on these guys. These are my genuine opinions on these guys. I'm not just doing any of this for hot takes or whatever. Yeah, this is what I would do. I hope you enjoyed the video, and please subscribe, like the video. We'll see you for the next one. Peace out.